All right. Um, Welcome to our webinar about YouTube video optimization. So this is 6 of 7 out of the sermon publishing series. And today we're going to focus on YouTube, right? YouTube video optimization. We're going to kind of look at two aspects of videos between this week and next week. And then we'll take a week off and we'll go on to the next topic, which I'll talk about momentarily. So as you know, the goals of these webinars are to equip you with proven methods of outreach so you can bring the work of the church before the people of your community. And so over the coming months, we will be focusing on advertising, primarily online, but we may actually get into some offline advertising methods as well. We do have a partner that we work with who can help out with things like direct mail and billboards. Publishing newsletters is part of this as well. That'll be coming up in future months, as well as nuts and bolts of organizing and promoting events online, like conferences or vacation Bible schools. But today we're going to continue on with our journey of sermon publishing. And we're basically beginning to wrap that up starting today. So as I mentioned, we'll be taking a week off at the beginning of August, and then we'll be focusing the rest of August on local SEO. So helping you and your church take advantage of the fact that 2 or 3 times as many people are searching for church near me today than there were even back in 2020, even 3 or 4 years ago. It's a significant increase of people searching online for church near me. So we thought it'd be a good idea to go ahead and talk about local SEO. So we've looked at adding the sermon recordings to your website and organizing them, configuring podcast feeds, adding full text transcripts. And also last week, we looked at publishing on social media. And then today we're going to look at optimizing individual YouTube videos. And then next week, we will look at optimizing your YouTube channel to maximize engagement of people that find your YouTube videos, actually making it very clear and easy for them to connect with your church. So before I get into today's content, does anybody have any questions about maybe what we talked about last week or in a previous week? All right, that just reminded me, I need to, let's see, let me do this. I need to go ahead and put in the chat the links to our how-to guides. So they have, let's see, let me put it in the chat. And the first couple links in there are the how-to guides. So we now have level 6 in here, which has guides for all the things we're going to be talking about today, such as creating a custom thumbnail for a YouTube video using Canva, for example, is one of the things we're going to look at today. So all of these things we're going to go over today have those how-to guides. And then also, one of the other links in there is, let's see, it is the YouTube playlist. So we now actually have the recordings of all of these webinars. If you've missed some of them and want to go back to what you missed, or maybe you just prefer and find it easier to learn from just watching the videos, we have this YouTube playlist here now. So Well, let's dive into today's topic. And let's start by, again, asking a question, why? And my wife is here today, Rebecca, and we recently celebrated our 18th wedding anniversary this year. And one of the insights we had recently was that one of Rebecca's favorite words is because, right? So and one of my favorite words is therefore, right? So this is the because, right? So we want to publish sermons on YouTube because it is the second most visited website in the world. So it basically has double the number of visits of Facebook. So of course, last week we talked a lot about Facebook, but YouTube is the second most visited website in the world. It's something about, I guess the 35.51B is, if I'm interpreting this correctly, that's 35 billion visitors per month or something like that. All right. So a lot of people spend a lot of time on YouTube. It does have some social characteristics to it, like the ability for people to add comments, but it's really best viewed as a search engine. And I'm sure you've all noticed that if you're doing a search, a lot of times videos will come up as well. So we're really thinking about YouTube primarily as a search engine. So one of the first things that you should do is to open up your favorite document editor, be that Microsoft Word or Google Docs or whatever it is, and just create a default video description template. So let's look at a few examples. Because again, we're talking about how do you optimize your videos in YouTube so that they can be found by the maximum number of people. So let's just look at some examples. So what I did is I just did a search in YouTube for sermons on, and then I saw what books of the Bible came up. And one of the ones that came up was sermons on James. So I clicked on sermons on James, and Alistair Begg came up. Now Alistair Begg has a little bit of an unfair advantage because he has a radio program and all that. So a lot of people know the name just because they can turn on their radio and hear his Scottish brogue there. And they're like, cool, it's a Scottish accent and all that. So he does have a little bit of an unfair advantage, but there's a couple of things that he's doing here that are practices all of us can imitate. So this video has a summary of what's in it. And then it clearly lists the scripture. Although in my opinion, it really should be listed in the title as well. He doesn't include the date preached. I'm not sure how important that is. But then he also has a link back to where you can find all the sermons. So that's very important. The three main things I think that really everybody should be doing that's posting sermons on YouTube are have a summary, a 1 or 2 sentence summary. Make sure to list the scripture reference, and then have a link back to the sermons page on your website. Let's look at another example. So there was another one that came up with sermons on the book of Daniel. So this is David Guzik, who has this thing called Enduring Word that I know one of my daughters really likes that commentary. She has the app and everything. And it's actually really amazing. He has a commentary on every book of the Bible, apparently. But anyway, he has a 2-sentence summary. Oops. And then there's a link to where you can basically learn more. Also, you'll see there's these key moments that's something I can, if any of you want to learn more about how to do that, sometimes YouTube will add these automatically. There's also a way you can actually sort of suggest or provide input to YouTube to do that. So that could be something I follow up in the Q&A time if you're interested. All right, just a couple more examples. Again, we have a 2-sentence summary. And then here's a link to where people can, to the Ligonier website, where they can look at the whole series. And one of the things I want to highlight about the title is that they do have the title of the individual message, but it does say the Book of Job, so that's good. Because a lot of people simply are searching for sermons on a particular topic or a particular book of the Bible. And then Derek Thomas is a relatively big name, so that makes sense to put his name in the title as well. But what we can learn from this is there's a summary, there's a link to where people can see the whole series, and then there's a clear indication of what book of the Bible it's from. Okay, I got one more. If anybody wants to be an overachiever, you can be like Vadi Bakum. So I don't know if you can read all this, but he has a very short summary, but then it links to the series, it links to the church website, it links to the bookstore, it has a donation link, it has an Amazon Smile link, it has some hashtags, and it has a link where you can subscribe to the channel. So you don't necessarily need to go into all that detail. But all of these, they're getting tens of thousands of views. They have thousands and thousands of subscribers. So they're good ones to look at as far as what are the pros doing that we can imitate. So basically what I recommend is that you just come up with a little document for yourself, maybe something like this. And just a reminder, so I think it's really important in the title of the video to include the scripture reference. You might even say a sermon on Mark 8, verse 27 through 30, similar to what you do when you post it on your website, as we've talked about in previous meetings. And then in the YouTube description, you have a 1 to 2 sentence summary, scripture reference. And then here's where you want to link back to people watch the recording. They want to learn more. You always want to give them a link back. So the way that you do that, just want to give a little demo of how you would do that. So basically, all you do there is you go to the sermons page, and then you just go to that search bar. Let's see here, view all. Okay, yeah. So I would recommend you link back to your church website. Then you could just add that to your template. You could just say something like this, listen to all the sermons here. And then you link back to that. Same idea if you're organizing your sermons into a playlist, which we'll talk about that a little bit later on today. You just go to where that page is, and you just copy that link, and then you put that into your template, and you have that ready. Of course, this part would need to change over time as you have different playlists that you create. But then you have a little document that you can use every time you're uploading a video to YouTube. Or maybe, I think in a lot of cases, you might be in a situation which I think is probably what most people and most churches are in, is you've been uploading videos to YouTube maybe since 2020. And now you can use this information to go back and make them more findable for people that are searching. All right, so let me delete that slide. Okay, here we go. I had a brainstorm right before this meeting. I'm going to share with you in a minute. So the big principle, these next things I'm going to show you relate to keyword research. And what I'm going to be advocating for is that to make your YouTube videos findable to the maximum number of people, you need to do some keyword research. You need to do some keyword research. And you need to think about the way that you label your videos a little bit differently from what many preachers do when they are giving a title that they print in the bulletin. All right. So a lot of times, and I get it, it's good rhetoric. You want to come up with a clever title. So I found an article that talked about this to give some examples of clever sermon titles, right? The Night the Jailhouse Rocked, Acts 16. All right. It's clever, but it's not very clear. And I guess maybe if people are searching for what, Elvis or something, then they might stumble across. So maybe you could justify it that way. 7 ducks in a muddy stream. I did not look up 1 Kings 5, so I can't remember what that one is, but right, that's not very clear. Like, I have no idea what that's about. I have not read 1 Kings 5 recently, so I'm not sure what's going on there. So that would be, if you want people to find your sermon, if they're searching for a sermon on 1 Kings 5, you better have the title of your YouTube video that says 1 Kings 5 in it. All right, a nude dude in a rude mood, Mark 5, right? The Gadarene demoniac. So that's, again, it's not very clear. I'm so sick of frogs I could croak, Exodus chapter 8. Right, so these are all clever sermon titles, and it's good. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying stop using these clever sermon titles. What I'm saying is they're not necessarily what is going to help people find your sermon when they're searching for a sermon on a particular scripture or a particular topic. All right, so what should you be doing? So basically, like I was saying in the previous step, you always include the scripture reference in the YouTube video title. And then, again, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying don't use these titles. But the other thing that you should consider, you can consider, is to do some keyword research related to topics, popular topics. Let me show you how to do this, and then I'm also going to highlight the free bonus PDF that we have today. So what you can do is you can just do use the autocomplete feature of YouTube to get some insight into what are the popular topics. So you could say sermons on, all right, so there we go. We have some interesting things that show up. Sermons on trusting God, faith, prayer, relationships, anxiety, etc. Right? Google is showing these search predictions, YouTube is showing these search predictions because these are the most popular topics. All right? Or you could say, what does the Bible say about tattoos, cremation, marriage, dinosaurs, divorce, hell, the solar eclipse, right? These are all popular topics. Again, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that any pastors or preachers or churches should start, the elders should be sitting around like saying like, hey, we're gonna pastor, we really want you to start preaching based off of all of these topics. But when you're thinking about how do you title the video on YouTube, it's good to be aware of these things. And it might it's worth considering in the thought process of how do you end up titling a YouTube video. So let me highlight the free bonus.
Interrupt you real quick.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Is it important that you be logged into your YouTube account, or do you need to go incognito in order to get those kinds of results, or is that something you're going to get into later?
Yeah, that's a good thing to keep in mind, Rebecca, is that one of the things that when you go into when you look at this list, if you're logged in, it is aware of your search history or whatever. I don't know that this is right. This is not necessarily so that's something to keep in mind. Is that it might make a difference whether you're logged in or not. I don't really think it's just something to keep in mind with search engines. Okay, so that it can make a difference whether you're logged in or not. So, yep. All right. Okay, so let me highlight this free bonus PDF here. So let me put this in the chat window. Okay, so in the chat window, I put a link right here. All right, so this is another free bonus for today, and it has kind of has a checklist, but related to this topic, this is a list of the most popular Bible-related searches A to Z. So in order to make this list, basically, what we did was we went into YouTube where we're not logged in, so that it's not like slanted at all based off of the recommendations based off of search history. This is just general, this is what's most popular that people are searching for. It's a very, very interesting list, and it's good to keep in mind as you come up with titles. All right, so let's look at how do we actually actually begin to put this into practice. So one of the things that this is kind of the last thing I want to show before we actually get into what does it look like to put together a video upload. What does it look like to actually upload the video and put all these things into practice when you're doing so? You can use Google Trends. So if you go to googletrends.com, so let's say that the sermon talks about forgiveness and betrayal. Okay, so what you can do here is you can do a search, and you want to make sure you're selecting YouTube search, and then you can type in the two different search terms that you're wanting to compare. You can see that in this case, they're basically about the same. But maybe you're wondering, maybe we should have something about anger in the sermon title. And you can see that this shows that anger is actually something that people search for more commonly, right? So this free tool you can use to get an idea of what are the most popular things that people are searching for. So again, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that you should, just totally relabel things totally based off of what's popular, but I'm just saying that there is some value to doing some keyword research. And at the very least, what I recommend is that you include the scripture reference in the title and the description. So any questions on all that so far before we get into an example of putting all this into practice?
Yes, Daniel.
Yes.
I went to googletrends.com and told me the site doesn't exist. Can you post the exact URL for us?
Yeah, just go to trends.google.com.
Ah, flip the
Yep.
word. Okay.
Trends.google.com. I put it in chat. Okay, there are other software tools out there that are paid tools that you can do keyword research. But the place to start is just with what's freely available. All right, so let's look at an example of how do you put all this into practice. And you're going to have to use a little bit of imagination, because what I'm actually going to be showing you is not a sermon, but a video which is part of last week's webinar. But what I've done so far with this video is I've just literally uploaded the video, and all we have is the title. All right. So this is a good, I think, this will give you a good sense of what the process is going to look like when you're actually optimizing a YouTube video for the maximum visibility. Okay, so we have a title, and I already used for this title the techniques that I was showing and talking about the past 10 minutes, using the YouTube autocomplete, using Google Trends. And I decided that I wanted to make sure that the title mentioned Facebook link preview, Yoast SEO, and WordPress. All right, so then I need to put in a description. So I'm going to say, this video teaches you how to change Facebook link preview images using Yoast SEO, using the Yoast SEO plugin and WordPress. You will also learn how to use the Facebook debugger. All right, and then I'm going to have a link back to the playlist. So here I have the playlist. I'm just going to link back to the playlist where they can learn more detail. This is from the Sermon Publishing Masterclass. All right, so I'm linking back to the playlist. All right, and next is the thumbnail. All right, so that brings us to the next step in the process: create a custom thumbnail for a YouTube video using Canva. So we've seen Canva before, and Canva is such a wonderful tool. You can create a YouTube thumbnail with this. So it has a lot of different ones that you can choose from. You'll notice that most of them have some text on them, and they also have a person's face in them. Okay, that's a pretty common recipe. So there's other ways you can do it. I think at least you want to have some kind of a clear title. All right, but I'm going to show you also how, if you wanted to include the an image of the pastor in there as well, I'm going to show you how you could do that. So I'm going to use this template again. All right, and I'm going to show you how you can, one way that you can get an image that, there we go. So I'm going to put this in the chat. So there's a website called remove.bg. And this is a very simple tool. Basically, you can upload an image. And it will automatically remove the background. All right, so it's remove.bg, very simple. You just click the download button, which I've already done. And then what you do is you upload that. You just click upload files, you select it from your computer, and then you can use it on your slide. So I'm going to remove this guy. I'm going to put my photo in there. All right, and then I'm going to remove some things that I don't want to keep. And then let's see, what's the title of this? There we go. Just going to paste that in here. All right, definitely need to make the text smaller. Okay. Relatively simple example, could be better, but this is hopefully enough to give you an idea of how these are done. So I'm going to go ahead and download it, and I recommend using a JPEG, a JPG format. I'm going to go ahead and download that. Let's see. All right. And okay, now I'm going to add that as my thumbnail. Let's see here. There we go. All right, so now we have that nice thumbnail. And then I'm going to add that to the playlist. You can see also there's an option to create a new playlist. So I've added that to the playlist. And we'll go ahead and click next. All right, the next thing here is to add, let's see, there's something in the chat. Okay, that was just a conversation about copyright freeze in Canva, and basically not that we're aware of. All right, so there's different video elements that you can add. These are more for increasing engagement, not so much related to our main topic today of how do you build awareness and get your video out in front of more people. A lot of that has to do with just how you title it, and make sure you have a clear description. You want to be clear rather than clever. And what I'm going to show you how you can add an end screen. And so what I'm going to do is just have something that shows up at the end of the video. We're just going to make it in the last, let's see here, let's do this. We'll just have it show up in the last 15 to 12 seconds. All right. And okay, and so we're going to actually have it select all right, so this is going to show at the end of the video, it's going to show a link to where they can subscribe to the channel. And then it's also going to show, this is going to be a link to the playlist, the sermon publishing playlist. All right, so that can be a helpful way to make sure that people know that there's other videos that you have if they liked the one that they found through their search. Right, and then I'm going to go ahead and make this one public and publish it. Okay, so now there's one more thing that you can do related to optimization that I'm going to show you today. This is, in many ways, this is still just the tip of the iceberg. A good iceberg, not a bad iceberg, a good one. That is to add tags. So if you just type the £, it will, and you start typing, it will suggest different, different hashtags. Now you can do this when you're first putting in the description, but I like doing it after I've published the video because it actually will show like how many, really basically the relative popularity of those. Let's see, social. All right, so we have social media. All right, I'm going to go with social media tips. That one's kind of more middle of the road, right? And so you can, for churches, there's things like, you can type in like Reformed, Reformed Baptist, Reformed Church. You could type in, you could go for Calvin and Hobbes, or you could go for Calvinist, right? You could go, there's all kinds of different things that you could select from that. It's just one other thing you can do to help get your video in front of a little bit of a larger audience. All right, so at this point, I would say for that video, we have a decent baseline where it has a relatively clear title, has a clear description. It has a few tags. In fact, let's actually just go ahead and view it there. So, right, so we have a few hashtags there. It has a clear little description. Has a link to where people can click to view the masterclass. So it's that is a good baseline for a YouTube video optimization. So you can see here that's in this PDF that I shared the link to that in the chat. Just to summarize, research popular keywords. Here's another little tip: give your video a file. Give your video file name that has the relevant keywords before you upload it. In the title, at the very least, include the scripture reference in the title, because people might be searching for a sermon related to that book of the Bible. And then we went over providing a description, adding a video to a playlist, custom thumbnail, video specific tags. and then end screen. We didn't look at adding YouTube cards, but that was at the same step where we added the end screen. That's where you would do that. And that is a very, very good baseline video optimization process. All right. So I believe that is, yeah, that's everything. We've looked at performing search optimization on a YouTube video. We have looked at hashtags. So now we have time for Q&A. So any questions today about sermon publishing? You can feel free to type a question into the chat or just unmute yourself and ask the question that way.
It might be a dumb question, but YouTube is only really for videos, isn't it? Not for audio sermons. Is that true?
It is primarily video, but they have recently introduced podcasts. So the podcast, yeah, podcast can be put on YouTube. So there is in the, let me go ahead and open up this, because Laura put together a guide that is, talks about, actually is, where is it hiding? Here it is. Okay. So it's actually, this has been added since our last meeting, but there's now a guide in here for submit a podcast feed to YouTube. And so there's a page that, I mean, you can see the link in the guide there. And you can create a podcast. And we'll just go ahead and open this up. I'll just kind of walk through this real quick. Make sure you're logged in with your correct account. And you click the new podcast button, and then you can just submit that RSS feed. And Laura, what happens then? Obviously, there's all this stuff you have to click on. You paste in that feed. Verify ownership, and
Yes.
what could people expect from completing this process? Is there an example we can look at, or?
Yes, actually, you could, if you go to on YouTube and look up Oakland Hills Community Church, you should see what happens now. As I have submitted the feed, it actually pulls from the feed every time there's a new podcast that's submitted.
Okay.
And when you go through this process on the church content one, you should be able to see. Oh no. Oh, okay. It says it does say your podcast, but that's different. Sorry, maybe I don't have it listed. But if I list it, it should say playlist, live, and then podcasts. When I'm the church admin on here, I can see the podcast as an option on the top bar in the navigation bar. So you can allow people to see the podcast that way. So YouTube took over Google Podcasts.
Yeah.
Now people can listen to the podcast here too.
Okay. But maybe it just hasn't been.
I just haven't set that. Yeah, I have not allowed that to be on the main page. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
And so just another thought, I don't know if this would cause any issues or not, but I have seen videos on YouTube where it's just like a photo, but you've got this 45-minute long audio file or whatever. So I don't know. Usually that's for music or white noise or some kind of whatever. But I've definitely stumbled across accounts that do something like that. So I don't know if there would be pros and cons there as far as a church doing something like that. But I know that at least until recently, at least, it's been something that I've seen for not for sermons, but for other things.
Yep. So it's it's obviously it's not going to include a video if you don't have a video, but it will it will put it into the YouTube search engine, and then people will be able to click on it and they'll be able to listen to it. So if you're not recording videos, but you do have a podcast feed, which if you're using sermonaudio.com, you have a podcast feed. If you're using one of our websites, you have a podcast feed. So it's a great thing. I would definitely urge you to do. This is actually a great example. I want to highlight that this is a great example of the use of playlists. So yeah, that's really, really good. And it's good also that they all have clear thumbnail images. It's easy to tell basically what all of these are about as well.
Yeah.
Book of Genesis, Lord's Prayer, 10 Commandments. So those are good examples. Yes, here this is good too. Sermon on Psalm 10, sermon on Psalm 9, right? These are a lot of really good things we're seeing here. So all right, other questions? We got a few minutes left. Could be on sermon publishing or church outreach or anything. So, all right.
Daniel?
Yes, sir.
What is your timeline for taking this recorded Zoom meeting and posting it for all to see or grab?
On the like in the YouTube playlist?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it will probably by next week it'll be in there.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Oh, okay. And here is an example of the podcast. Oh, very good. Okay. Thank you, Laura.
Scripture tonight comes from 1 John.
All right. So it looks like
And
what
the
we have.
podcast, it sounded like a sermon at the very start of it.
Yeah. So basically it has, it looks like a video, but it just has the image, and then it just has all of the different items in it. So, so yeah, that's a great, you already have that podcast, then I would definitely submit it to YouTube and get it on Apple, get it on Spotify, get it on YouTube. The nice thing about doing that is you basically just set it up once and you just kind of forget about it, and that's all you have to do, and it's just out there, and as long as, I mean, that would kind of take you back to part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, as long as you're doing all the steps that we talked about in the first 4 webinars in this series. Then once you add it as a podcast, it's gonna, it should have good clear titles. It should have a description that it's pulling in from the web page, and then you just kind of you set it up once and don't really have to do anything with it from there. It just kind of runs.
Wow.
So, all right. All right. See, Chris, you're asking, it is a lot of information. It says, could you post the link again to the recording? Are you talking about to the playlist. Is that what you're talking about, Chris?
Yeah, wherever you're putting recordings of all these different classes, that would be great.
Yes. Yes. So I just posted in the chat a link to what I have on the screen, which is the sermon publishing masterclass. So
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, make sure, let me just post the link to the bonus PDF one more time, just a reminder of what that is. It is this. It has just a checklist that can be something you could print off, and could just be a reminder of, here's the steps I need to follow every time I post something on YouTube. All right, so there's that link in the chat. Some thoughts on what to include in your YouTube video descriptions, and then just this link of what are the most, these are literally, we put this together based off of typing in what does the Bible say about, and then each letter of the alphabet. So it just kind of hopefully can provide a good reality check of what kind of things people are actually searching for these days. And then see what else. Our next webinar next Thursday is going to be focused on optimizing the YouTube channel. Right. So there is, this Oakland Hills Community Church example is a very, very good example of what a church YouTube channel should look like. And so we're going to be kind of going through nuts and bolts, step by step. How do you do all those different things? Like, how do you organize the playlists, and how do you configure how they display on this screen, and how do you get this image at the top? All those kind of things. That's what we'll be addressing next week. But thank you all for coming today.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah, I really appreciate these times, and just pray that the Lord blesses each one of you and all of us. So
this was great. Thank you very much.
yeah, absolutely. You're welcome. So all right, well, have a great day, and we'll see you hopefully next week.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yep. Bye.
Goodbye.